guys, welcome back. So this generation, in my opinion, has been defined by, I would say, two major things, at least on the console side of things, and it has been acquisitions. We've seen tons of acquisitions, and I guess you could say that spans the entire industry. It doesn't just have to do with consoles. But the other thing has been multi-platform strategy, and not just Xbox. Obviously, Xbox has been the bigger one on that front, but just across the entire industry with PlayStation and Xbox, they have been moving more and more towards multi-platform. And I know PlayStation fanboys are going to always come up with these narratives that PlayStation is not doing it, but they absolutely are when you see where they are releasing their games on PC more. They're putting Horizon, the IP with the Lego game, on the Nintendo Switch. And I mean, they already have games on Xbox like MLB. And the question is, will they ever put more of their games onto Xbox? Maybe at some point in the future. I do believe that the more multiplayer and games as a service games that PlayStation do make, if they can succeed on them and not have another debacle like Concord, those games will end up on Xbox. I do actually believe that. They'll probably keep all of their single player stuff off of the Xbox platform, but they are going multi-platform. And even like Destiny, they own Bungie, they own Destiny. Yes, I know Destiny was already on Xbox, but it is also now a PlayStation first party title, similar to with Call of Duty and Xbox and having that on PlayStation. But the other major publisher out there that has been extremely vocal about multi-platform games has been Square Enix. And the reason they have been is because their strategy of being console exclusive to PlayStation has failed. They explicitly have said that. They did not meet their expectations, and going forward, they are going to be more multi-platform to reach more people. Costs too much money to develop these games and then to lock it to a singular fan base. Just not enough people out there in that fan base to go out and buy it. And they are doubling down on this in a recent interview, and they talk about their plans to increase the amount of titles releasing simultaneously on each platform. So we do have this here. This is from Windows Central saying, from now on, Square Enix plans to increase the amount of titles releasing simultaneously on each platform, and Square Enix confirms more Xbox support while discussing this new upcoming JRPG. This was Square Enix's Naoki Yoshida confirming this with these reports that we've been hearing over and over again, releasing games day and date on Xbox and PC, which I think is just overall a great thing. It's a great thing for gamers. It's a great thing for Square Enix games because you'll have more people exposed to them and playing them, and they will do far better, I think, monetarily by doing this. And yes, Xbox will have their gamers out there. They'll buy a lot of those games, but just the PC platform. I mean, skipping the PC platform is always an insanely massive risk. They say here that the publisher has previously had exclusivity agreements with PlayStation for some franchises, including Final Fantasy, that have not been as profitable due to sales numbers not compensating for the game's growing operating costs. And that is the thing. People always love to say, oh, you have to buy your games to support the developers. And I think that is like a very much a social media thing, where people make fun of others for either renting games or not fully purchasing games, all that stuff, and pocket watching people. But the reality of the situation is most people are going to be selective on the games that they do purchase. Most people don't go out and buy every single game that is out there. So when you are locking your game to a singular platform, you're cutting out so many sales that you could get from people that would buy it elsewhere. And then the platform that you're on, you're already just limiting yourself to a finite amount of people on that platform. People that may not buy it, even if they're half fans of the game, they want to go buy something else. There's so many different reasons as to why locking a game to a singular platform is a bad idea, especially in today's day and age where games are taking longer to develop, the costs are going up. And if there is a failure of a game right now, we are seeing the fallout just be far bigger, where studios are getting closed, games are getting canceled, people are being laid off, especially this year, and they just can't take that risk anymore. So here's exactly what Square Enix says, Naoki Yoshida or Yoshi P, in an interview with 4gamer.net. It was talking about their release strategy, all of that type of stuff. And specifically Fantasian Neo Dimension. It's among, they say, for the first Square Enix titles to launch simultaneously on all platforms following the announcement of the strategy change. This is coming December 5th to Xbox, PC via Steam, PlayStation, and Nintendo. And it is, they say, a definitive edition of a classic JRPG adventure that precedes the Final Fantasy series. And I'm actually looking forward to playing this one. He says this time, the Xbox Series X and S version will be released at the same time. In the future, Square Enix will release more and more titles simultaneously on each platform. So I hope Xbox users will play it as well. And Naoki Yoshida also says, we have to think about how to get as many people as possible to play it and how to make it viable from a business perspective. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. That is what they have to do going forward, and that is what they're going to do going forward. And clearly, they've tried out both avenues here. They've tried console exclusivity with the rising cost of games, with the amount of money that they need to be able to make to consider a game a success. Yes, games can make money, they can be profitable, but they have to reach a certain threshold for investors, all that type of stuff, for it to actually make sense. And to do that, they're releasing it everywhere, which is, I think, the good move. In fact, he was talking about as well the extra work it takes to actually ship these games on other platforms. And he says the fact that it is released simultaneously on such a platform has led to excitement. So we are grateful that they did a good job. And the other thing he does mention here, which I think is very interesting, especially with the current climate of gaming, with the whole Dragon Age thing and going on with that, with this meta scores of video games. He says the meta score and the awareness of the game raised when it was released in 2021 on Apple Arcade, which is, if you didn't know, this game is on Apple Arcade, is one of the reasons why they looked into getting more people to play this game. They say they considered the regions where Fantasian's original release was played to determine which platforms would be best for the release of the definitive edition. So that is the strategy of Square Enix going forward. I think it's the strategy of most publishers and platforms going forward in the future. I think it will be taking over, especially as things like cloud gaming start to ramp up from more companies. They just want people to play their games. They don't care where they play them. And this will be very interesting to see how the next generation is handled from the platform perspective. And specifically, I'd say the Xbox side of things. I think PlayStation is just going to do what they do and release a console, but still put games in other places. But Xbox, are they going to expand out their platform even more? And what I mean is, are they going to allow other launchers onto their platform? Are they going to allow other companies to make an Xbox in terms of what the software is? Just be able to use the Xbox software UI stuff with an Asus at-home console, something like that. There's so many things that could happen in next gen, but getting more people to play is going to be the main goal and will continue to be the main goal. And if we're seeing anything right now, I know a lot of people get really angry when they hear about games going to other platforms, but if you're taking a look at PlayStation and where they are going, especially with recent events and games like Concord that have failed, and Xbox and where they are going, and games that are coming out, and you get a release like Call of Duty, which is like the highest release in terms of players and all that stuff. And it's going to be very interesting how much more they're going to get ahead because they are putting games onto different devices. But we'll see. Gaming has absolutely changed this generation. I would say in the future, in 20, 30, 40 years from now, we will look at as a generation that I think really changed everything from the traditional way of running a console generation. But I'll end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.